Last time I spoke here in the temple was after Gurupāñjali 2020, the beginning of 2020, and I was like, guys, I think this is going to be the last program for a while. He was like, no. Then we went into lockdown, and 2 years later, here I am. Ajnanatimidandhasya jnananjanashalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Śrī Gurave namaha. First of all, I offer my most humble dandavat pranam unto my Paramaradhitam Gurupāda-padma Vishnupāda Paramahamsa Parivrājikācārya Ashtodra Shri Bhakti Vedanta Sri Narayana Goswami Maharaj. And on this auspicious Vyāsa-Pūjā Mahamahotsav, 101st Vyāsa-Pūjā Mahamahotsav, I pray for his causeless mercy and his heartly blessings. From day one of this very place, on almost every single titi, I was mercifully given the opportunity to offer Puṣpāñjalis like this and reflect on previous Puṣpāñjalis I had given. And because of this, I could measure the progress and the fall downs or loopholes in between those holy tithis. And this was allowing me to increase the depth of the following year's Puṣpāñjali. And each year, a bit more. I could say a bit more, and I could relate to whoever was being glorified a bit more. Unfortunately, I ended up hitting a ceiling where I continued to repeat the words of our acharyas as per my best ability to do that properly, and I would study their words before every big event so that I would be always able to offer something on those days. Dig into the books. Oh, it's Gurudev's day is coming, let me read something about Gurudev. Prabhupada's day is coming, let me read something so that I'd be ready to speak. And did that for many years. And externally, it may have seemed like I knew what I was talking about to you guys. But internally, who's laughing at me?
No, we were checking, don't worry.
I know you were, everybody else. Internally, I started seeing and feeling that there was a sort of a ceiling. I was hitting a ceiling. And I was going round and round, and I wasn't being able to go past that ceiling. I got stuck, just repeating again and again the same stories, the same pastimes, but nothing was happening with it. So, that's the end. These lockdowns that then started, got locked down into Sundarananda Prabhu's house, mercifully. This allowed me to see that I had also locked myself in, spiritually speaking, which was a very difficult realization to get, but I noticed that I had become stuck. I was locked into an imaginary position of understanding Siddhanta, and maybe even of somewhat understanding Gurudeva. But everything I studied and learned with my brain remains only theory. Where is the practical application of chanting with tears falling from my eyes? And experiencing joy in meeting my Gurudeva while in separation from him? It wasn't coming, year in, year out. I spoke about it to all of you, and we were all talking about it, but it wasn't happening. It still isn't happening. So I took a big risk, and I decided to stop all, and in here I called it external stimuli. I decided to stop associating with all of you. I was like, screw up. No, I didn't think that. I was like, no. I'm going to stop associating with all the devotees through my material external senses. And I thought that this would allow me to see where I stand when I'm not being either dragged along, or pushed forward by others. Like you said, everybody wakes up in the temple, therefore I will wake up. And I wanted to see what would happen if I had to wake up by myself, and if I would actually, I needed to see for myself, where am I? Being dragged along and pushed along by everyone else is great, but how much of that is really me? I felt the necessity to see that. And so I decided to take a break from you guys. Not supposed to be funny. It is supposed to be funny.
Everything he says, lots of things that just come up funny. Can't help it.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to try that one a few more times until you have it allowed. Okay, so having done this, it allowed me to see how much or how little I could do by my own endeavor. Obviously, still only by the mercy of Sri Guru. Don't worry, I didn't get that thick that I started thinking that it was actually me. But at least not anymore by the force of the external environment. The result was shocking, and it's similar to discovering a can of worms. I found a can of worms. And I was alone with that can of worms. And today we got to see a lot of those worms too. So I discovered, soon there's a lot of those too. I discovered my skill in quantity and my total lack of interest in quality. I had become really good at chanting a lot of rounds, Hare Krishna, and I was done. And I could do all the ashtakams every morning, and I was singing those songbook, and I was doing all these things, and I thought I was doing great. But that ceiling came again. And it was, yeah, so one of those worms was I realized I was prioritizing quality. Sorry, no, I wish I did. Quantity over quality. Oh, Gurudev, you showed me in that dark moment how fallen I really am and how much I really need you. But you also showed me that you don't just want me to lazily depend on you only, and therefore show no endeavor or eagerness of my own. Gurudev would always remind me, whenever I would ask him for something, he wanted me to show that I wanted it, not just blindly like a robot, oh, I have to do this because this is service. Because then it's not done with the heart. And again, that's that quality again over quantity again, over quality. So from this very low point, I started calling for Gurudev. And strength started to come from within, from him and for him. And therefore also ultimately for me, my true me. I know this will be a long path with many, many more struggles to come, but I do know that slow and steady wins the race. And we are all in this race together. We can't always see how many laps someone has made and judge if they are ahead or behind us. I learned that in a game, racing car game. And I thought I was like way ahead of Sudevi, but I wasn't. And so we can't see, just because somebody's maybe not dressed as us or somebody just literally walked in, we can't tell who is ahead or who is behind. We can't judge the inside from the outside. Though the outside must reflect and will overflow only with that which is on the inside. Naturally, we will overflow with what is on the inside. But if I am myself not connected with my own internal spiritual life, I will also not be able to recognize a fellow struggler. And only the external show will go on and on and on and on, and I will have missed the point of it all. I pray and wish to avoid falling into that loop any deeper than I already am. And as I am still struggling to get out of it, in order to reinforce my offering from the Vyāsa-Pūjā festival, where I also started thinking about this from last year during the centennial, I would like to write this to you. I know I just read to you something that I wrote about something that I'm going to read that I have written before. But if you kindly allow me, I will read that now. I just wrote an introduction about it. Hoping that all the Vaishnavas here will bless me, because being away from all devotees was another worm that came up, which is that I do need my spiritual family too. I need Dharma Prabhu with his Zoom classes, I need Sham Prabhu with his funny stories, I need Malini with her videos of Harinam, I need Balabhadra pointing out the correct Siddhanta. I don't know what I need you for. No, I'm joking. Okay, so my only desire, I'm skipping my pranams because I just did one. You don't want to offer pranams too many times. My only desire in writing is with the aspiration to please Śrīla Gurudeva. I remember when you started your Puṣpāñjali, you started like that on Zoom. You put a picture of Gurudeva in front of all our Zoom faces and you just looked at Gurudeva. Yes. So I'm not that one-pointed as you are, but if there is anything I have experienced from buzzing around Śrīla Gurudeva like a blood-sucking mosquito, it is that being in his presence gives me a joy, which apart from my earlier meeting with Śrīla Gaurgovinda Maharaj, I had never before experience. Since the soul is Anandamaya Abhyasa, our souls are seeking joy, all of us, it is impossible to not want to try and please Śrīla Gurudeva. Śrīla Gurudeva was once asked on a morning walk, how will I know if Gurudeva is happy with me? And the answer he gave was, you will be happy. Now, I'm no Pandit or a psychic, but it was easy to understand from the first time I saw Śrīla Gurudeva that the joy I experience in his presence far exceeds any other type of joy or all of them combined. As a teenager, it was a bit like trying to be a good boy for Santa Claus. The only difference was that trying to be good all year meant chanting my rounds, studying his and Srila Prabhupada's books. He always told me, make sure you read my books and Srila Prabhupada's books every day, which I'm not doing. So, and in my case, it also just meant behaving. That was already a whole mission, which I won't get into. This in turn would be rewarded by Śrīla Gurudeva with a glance, a pat on the back, or a head or shoulder, and in good years, a little chat. And the years that I wasn't good, he would ignore my existence entirely, until I would get to the point of almost having a mental emotional breakdown. And then he would come with a simple, how are you? And that would fix it in a second. But he would wait till that point. Now that he has concealed his pastimes in this world, the rewards are also more concealed. In theory, I understand from our acharyas that there is no difference between the Vaishnava's appearance and disappearance from this world. Both their arrival and departure are their mercy. In Srila Param Gurudeva's words, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, he said, compelled by mercy they come to this world, and it is for mercy's sake that they also leave it. I can see from this statement how I would obviously be attributing fault to the character of my Gurudev by saying that he has left us. However, I do miss his blue eyes, which while scanning an entire audience, and like you said with Nikunja Prabhu also, also beams coming out. While scanning an entire audience, he would catch mine, and raising just one of his eyebrows, they would cause me to erupt in a simultaneous joy and fear. Like, what did I do? But also become really happy. I miss how when I ask him for his blessings, he says, my blessings are always with you, conveying to me that it's my endeavor that is lacking, not his blessings. And then later teaching me that my endeavor is also due to his blessings only, which I'll get back to later. I miss how he points at me and lovingly laughs at me for all the stupid things I have done, and still do. There's pictures of him literally pointing at me and laughing. I miss how he messes up my hair when I clearly spend a long time in the mirror arranging it. We do that too. Go for Guru Puja, come all combed, then he just goes. I miss that. But if he has not left me, as we just understood from Param Gurudev, if he has not left me, then why am I missing him? My mother once told Śrīla Gurudeva that she is missing him, and Gurudev asked her, have I not given you mantra? Are you chanting those mantras? And how can you miss me? Śrīla Gurudeva is present in those mantras. It is natural that we all experience sadness in the physical absence of Śrīla Gurudeva. But Srila Param Gurudev's words echo in my mind every time I become sad. We experience separation when our pleasure is obstructed. And also Param Gurudev said, the sadness we now feel in his absence is because we are not getting those things, and that is merely kamana, desire, and bhog, enjoyment. We're not getting that fulfillment from Gurudev's presence, like the pat on my back, which made me happy. So, this leads me to think, what then does it mean to miss him in the true sense? If this is not missing, then what is missing? And even though we are celebrating the 100th appearance day, and now already the 101st appearance day of Srila Gurudev, and my heart should be full of joy, I feel sad because I miss him. And even more sad because I should not be missing him. In a contrary way, I simultaneously experience so much joy simply by thinking of Srila Gurudev, talking and writing about Srila Gurudev right now with you. There is a joy in that. And at the same time, I'm really sad. Śrīla Gurudeva explained so many times to us that Viraha is nothing but Vishesh Rupen Milan, or a special type of meeting. And this is how we can still be in the Sangha of Śrīla Gurudeva. In fact, as Śrīla Param Gurudeva explains, it is Viraha, separation, not Milan, meeting, that is beneficial for us. He explains that one's heart can become polluted in the mood of union, but feelings of separation will purify us. When we're together, we're all chilled out, relaxed, Italy festival, let's go to the lake, have an ice cream. None of that comes up in the mood of separation. So the mood of separation purifies us. It's a fire that burns in our heart and burns all the anarthas, Param Gurudeva explains. This makes me wonder again. On the one hand, we should not miss Gurudev because he's always with us. And on the other hand, we need to miss him because this will ultimately burn our anarthas better than in any other way. So what do? How do I miss him in the true sense? One time in Spain, Śrīla Gurudeva asked me to stand up and repeat what Srimati Shamarani Didi had just spoken. Unfortunately, this is available on YouTube. I was not able to repeat it, and I was chastised by Śrīla Gurudeva for thinking that simply traveling and then sitting in front of him in class while my mind is somewhere else is sadhusanga. It is not. He said a lot of more embarrassing things, which I will not repeat. I took for granted all those years of festivals. Winters in Germany, summers in Europe. Germany is Europe too, but England, Spain, France. Springs in Navadvip, autumns in Vrindavan. It was so easy to ask him anything, 4 times a year, minimum. Everything was easy, maximum. But now some hard endeavor is required. Luckily, Śrīla Gurudeva explained one time during Janmashtami in Mathura that even though we say Mother Yashoda's ropes for binding Krishna were always 2 fingers too short, representing endeavor and mercy, in reality, both fingers are mercy. We cannot make any endeavor in bhakti without his mercy. The fact that we wake up in the morning to chant our rounds is his mercy. Therefore, with this offering, I am praying for a drop, Kripa Bindu, for a drop of that mercy. I am begging all you Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis here present for your mercy to help me, because you are all the true servants of my Gurudev and therefore my true well-wishers. The true worshippers of this Vyāsa-Pūjā festival that we're celebrating now. I know that my sadness cannot be true Viraha, because Viraha enhances the elegance of service. Viraha enhances the elegance of service. However, when any service comes to my path, instead of becoming attached to it, as those who have tried to offer me any service may know, I don't get into it. I step away from it. I was supposed to be a host today on Zoom, just to give you an example. Does this mean I have barred myself from entrance into the realm of true Viraha and true Seva, just because I keep saying no to service? Or is there still hope for someone like me? One of the first things I remember that Śrīla Gurudeva said when he came to Holland for the first time was that he had not come to build temples of brick and stone, but to build temples in our hearts. He then explained in detail what type of temple and who should reside in that temple. This seems to be his inner heart's desire for us, his disciples, to build that temple in our heart. Not that temples shouldn't be built, don't want to get in trouble, nor that books or the holy name shouldn't be distributed, but that we should become qualified devotees ourselves. This is one of the main teachings for me from Śrīla Gurudeva. I've found that I need to become qualified myself. I pray not to fall into a state of lamentation again, where one becomes bewildered and thus inactive, bereft of energy and capacity, and afflicted by grief. This is how Param Gurudeva describes how a conditioned soul, what happens to us when we fall into lamentation. Instead of viraha and feeling enthusiastic, I become bewildered, inactive, bereft of energy and capacity, afflicted by grief. I basically lie down in bed, get a remote control, watch Netflix all day, and order a pizza. That is not viraha, apparently. The words, 1 minute. The words "don't be hopeless," spoken by Śrīla Gurudeva, are circling the globe, allowing us to plug in and absorb those words till the end of time and beyond, to continue reminding us, empowering us not to be hopeless ever. Like Gurudeva said, when you throw a pebble in the water, it keeps going around. Now Gurudeva spoke these words, don't be hopeless. Those words of Śrīla Gurudeva are still circling the globe, and we can just plug into it whenever we want to. I am blessed. I wrote this during a lockdown last year. It's not a lockdown now. But anyway, I'm blessed with this lockdown, which is forcing me to look even deeper within myself for my Śrīla Gurudeva and my service to him. Please, Śrīla Gurudeva, please help me clean and build a temple in my heart. Today is the appearance day of Gurudeva. We want Gurudeva to appear in our heart. So I'm praying to Śrīla Gurudeva that I can build this temple in my heart in which he can appear. Otherwise, what's the point of this festival? And all Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, everybody present here, Tarun included, please bestow upon me a fraction of the qualification needed to perform this Manavishta Seva, by which I will give joy and experience joy, even more so than being in his physical presence. Srila Puri Maharaj, Srila Gurudeva, Panguja said so many times that there is so much more joy in the association of Sri Guru after his disappearance. I have absolutely no experience of this, but they all said this. So this is something that I want to attain. The prospect of this, the prospect of realizing that Srila Gurudeva's presence is everywhere, especially in my own heart and in everyone else's heart, is the only force that inspires me to keep going on, or rather to finally start. I cannot thank you all enough for spreading Srila Gurudeva's Vani everywhere. Everywhere I look, online, offline, here in the temple, everybody reminds me of Srila Gurudeva over and over again. And without you all, I would be lost. So thank you so much. All Vaishnavas ki jai.